Welcome to the Joyosity Podcast. I am so glad that you are joining us today. Whether you are a seasoned leader or just starting out, you belong in the Joyosity community. If you are new to Joyosity, we base everything that we do here on three bedrock beliefs. One, that true leadership requires more than just surface level strategies. It requires a profound commitment to everything that makes us human. And two, we use genuine curiosity so we can create positive culture with all those complex people that we work with, because those complex people are all we've got to work with. And three, that joy is the heartbeat of a healthy organization. So we're putting joy and fun and play at the center of our work. And every week on Joyosity, we bring you dynamic conversations with leaders who are really sharing from their stories, their real life experiences, leading research, and hard-won wisdom. I'm Jen Whitmer, your host. I'm a speaker and international consultant and all-around joy bringer, really helping you along the way so we can move from ideas to action. And I want to help you get those deep insights that will transform you as a person and your life as a leader. So get yourself ready. I always have multiple beverages around. You probably do too. Get your speaker ready, maybe some notes to capture everything, because today I cannot wait to introduce you to our guest. So our guest today is Ken Black, and I have had the privilege of listening to him several times, and his wisdom is phenomenal. His experience is truly unbelievable. He really helps leaders and organizations and brands seeing things differently. How you see things differently changes everything with creative thinking and systems. His expertise helps you accelerate business opportunities. And for 25 years, he's worked in and around Nike. He has had leaps from corporate to other partnerships and dream jobs. But really, his expertise of the ability to see everything is so critical. And so I am super excited to welcome Ken Black.
Hey, Jen, how are you doing?
I'm so happy that you're here. I'm just
Yeah.
thrilled that you
Thanks
are
for
here.
having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Excited for the conversation. Let's see where this goes.
Yes. I always enjoy talking to you. And so, but because I know a little bit about who you are, I always like to start with people being able to hear a little bit of your story. So tell us a little bit about how you got to doing what you're doing today, helping organizations and brands and people see things differently. How did you get here?
Sure. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I have a good friend who uses the word multifarious, and I'll let you all look that up. But
I love that.
basically, I like to say that I came into Nike as a designer and I popped out as something else. Was there for 12 years as a designer, worked in innovation, brand, internally launched a number of divisions. And it was back in the day when Nike was still kind of on fire, growing. And a bunch of us young kids were just trying to make sport better. And so we had quite a ride. Learned a lot of things, worked on some just fantastic projects and products. I was there for about 12 years, and I was starting to ask the question: Is this kind of easy and fun just because Nike's an amazing place, or do I have some part of it? And so I left Nike in 2004. Helped a few of us start a little performance company and media company, which we built for 5 years. And then, believe it or not, Nike acquired half of it. We sold half of it to Nike. We sold half of it to ESPN. And then I came back with that acquisition. And so from designer to innovation to brand within Nike, and then entrepreneur running a small company. And then within Nike was GM of that business for a few years. And then went back to the executive leadership side from a design and creative standpoint. And then led an enterprise level transformation project that was more about business and how we think about how creation influences the future of how we see what we do, which was awesome. And it's not what my little designer self when I was going to Art Center College of Design would have thought I would have ever done. But that path and continues today. My path really was about curiosity and challenge, right? And so I was very curious, interested in like, hey, what is that? That seems pretty cool. Like, what are you all doing over there? And is there a spot that I could come in and maybe mix it up, maybe fail, but have a little bit of that stress of like the challenge and actually make something of it. And my path kind of followed that. Following Nike, I taught design thinking at the university level. It was a wonderful time for me to do a lot of personal work on the stuff that you want to talk about here, which is who am I? What do I do well? When am I at my best? What are the values and the way that I see the world that allows me to bring something unique to people, to places, to projects? I had some conversations with one of the things when I left Nike. I said I never wanted to do is work at an agency because I've hired plenty and I know what that life can be like. And yet the CEO of an experiential agency called, wanted me to work with them, and I just had no interest until he started talking about it as a transformation project. So rather than needing a chief creative officer, which I felt like I'm old enough to have done a lot of stuff. There's plenty I can still do, but plenty of stuff. And it was like, I feel like I've done that. The minute he talked about transformation and that they've been around for 40 years, but they needed to see themselves differently in order to become what they needed to be, as opposed to waiting for the world to change them. Things clicked, because that's the work that, as you said at the beginning, my central theme is that seeing differently changes everything. Once you see something, you can't go back. You can't unsee things, right? It's with us forever. And so helped that agency for around 4.5 years. Amazing relationship with that CEO on that transformation project. And now am still advisor with the CEO of the agency, but on my own. So have founded a number of companies. There's some things in international soccer and football, a number of tech startups. I'm advising, let's see, a little bit of angel investing, creative director, mentor, leadership mentor, be it. Just trying to impart a lot of the things that I've seen along the way that can help folks. And that's the deal. I just want to make an impact in the place where humans are trying to figure out who they are and how the best of who they are can make an impact on work and the people around them. So I feel really lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. I love so many parts of your story. I mean, the thing that always pulls me in is that you let curiosity guide you in some way. Another speaker that I follow often says, follow the fun. And I think I have kind of put those two together in the concept of joyosity, is that like following the curiosity and following the joy creates something really amazing. Even though I know in that story, there were times where that was really hard. It's not like that path was straightforward, shall we say.
For sure. Yeah.
And I really wanted you to share that story, because I think so many people listening have this circuitous path. I love the concept of multifarious. The idea of there's lots of irons in the fire is very fun. And I think we often feel that way, but sometimes leaders feel like they're the only ones. I'm the only one that's done this. If I'm job hopping too fast, or I'm doing, like, I think these stories come up for people, and but that's not necessarily true. And demonstration of that.
Yeah, I think what I'm a big proponent of, and especially I would say kids who come to me for advice, is really thinking differently about do versus be, right? It's like, what are the things you want to do versus what do you want to be? I think the question of asking kids, what do you want to be when you grow up, is a massive mistake, because it is putting their identity and having them chase things that it may exist that may or may not be right for them.
Totally.
And that they have no control of getting there. But if you ask the question, and that's for whatever reason, I think I lucked into this. My questions were always, what do I want to do next? Right? And what is kind of on my to-do bucket list and I still have things on my list. I want to have my name in the credits of a movie or something. Like there are things I want, and which when you talk about how that leads you to places, it really takes a lot of the fear, some of the trepidation out of it, because it's like, in this time that I've got, what are the things I really want to do? Like, and in the process of doing that, what's the impact that I want to have, right? I don't want to just be a producer of a movie. I want to have worked on something in a really special way with a group of people that produce something that will stand test of time, and be able to have that as a marker of, a little bit of my time here and some kind of impact that I had. So I think the do versus be is something that I talk to a ton of people about, because we get caught up in, hey, I think I want to be a creative director. I think I want to be a CFO, or I want to be whatever it is. And then we lose ourselves and we lose our curiosity in the process of using that as such a rigid marker of what I'm trying to tether myself to, as opposed to recognizing, again, asking yourself the questions: when am I at my best? When do I feel joy in my work? Where do I feel the most powerful? Where do people respond to what I have to offer? And then in that case, what are the things out there that I could do that allows me to add more of that and feel the results in return?
It's such I think much a more full process that actually honors the person we want to be. Like when we tie, like you said, identity to role, we get things all kinds of conflated, and it doesn't support the actual lives we want to build, because there's too much collapsing of identity to task. I mean, I've been fired. My husband has been fired. I have tons of clients and friends where we've had that experience. And if that is your whole identity, your world falls apart. It's incredibly challenging. But if you are like, what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of things do I want to do? What kind of impact do I want to make in the world? It's a really different way of approaching it, which I think is something you do so well. And one of the reasons I really want to talk to you and have you share with the audience is about how you talk about the way you see. And I talk a lot about the way that you see in the Joyosity model. The first part is exploring who we are as humans. And I talk about personality as the lens that you're born with, and you have to figure out what it is. Stories are how we make sense and how we choose to like make sense of that lens. But values are our chosen lens of the world that and then we make decisions based on that. And I'd love to hear how you define value. Like, what is values to you, or the lenses that you talk about in the way you see things?
Yeah, sure. The power of seeing, I think, comes in many ways. One, you've heard me talk about this before. We grow up in a world that likes to put blinders on us and say, hey, I need you to be a student now, or I need you to be this kind of, if you play sports, I need you to be on this team, but I need you to be a defensive player. And everything is built to have us narrow in on what the world needs us to be, right? And these unknowingly, I think, become blinders that limit our view, our ability to see more options. And even if we're performing a very specific role, knowing that role, as you said, is not what defines us. That role, I'm kicking ass in this role that I'm doing right now, but there's so much more to me than that. Part of when I had left Nike, the performance company we started was called Spark, and we were acquired, and they rolled in with us this kind of vision training technology. And there was a saying that a slogan that we used, which is the eyes lead the body. And if you think about that in the physical world, if I were to toss you a pen, or you say, hey, can I have a piece of gum? And I toss you a piece of gum or whatever, what's going to happen? Your eyes are going to look up. It will track the deal. Your hand will come up and grab it, right? If you're saying, hey, what time is it? Where do I need to go? You're going to look down at your watch and you're going to see it. And then you're going to look up and go, which way do I need to go? If you are leaving to do something, or you're finding your keys, you're going to look first, and then when you see them, your body follows. And so this whole notion that if you think about, our eyes lead our body, then the question is, what are we looking at? And what are we looking for? And that's why when it comes to thinking about leadership, and there's a whole sidebar to kind of how I have come up with some approaches to leadership philosophy. But if you think about the importance of values, I've always thought values, we joked about it before. It's like it's the words on the wall and the corny posters with the.
Isn't it the motivational poster?
Yeah, all the hot air balloons and the ocean and the whatever.
The sunset and people together.
Right, and so they become kind of jokes. But I also think of them as, in a way, values can become bricks that we carry around in a bag, like we carry in our backpack, and they become kind of heavy. As in, I have decided that I think I want these 5 or 6 things to represent who I am, and yet I need reminders of it, which means I'm carrying it around. And I go through a situation, and it's like, well, shit, I tried to be like that, but I'm not like, maybe next time I'll do better. And it's almost like it's like how HR does 6-month annual reviews, right? We do a survey, and then we talk about what's wrong after 6 months after we've had the issues, right? And so to me, the values have always been kind of that baggage that people. And so as I was thinking about seeing, and for me personally, what I did is I started wanting to look at values as literally as lenses. Like if I want to be a certain way, and you think about as a leader, there are so many things coming at you. I just had this conversation with the head coach of an NCAA football team as we were working through his stuff. Is there are so many things coming at you, and so many pressures coming in that you've never seen before. Like, I'm working with PR, like I haven't had to do that in my other jobs, or my student athletes are thinking this about a certain thing, or that defensive player is hurt. Like all of these things coming in at once. And, when I was talking about before, the world, including the companies that we get hired by, want us to perform the tasks of the job we were hired for. And they are perfectly fine with us conforming to the shape that all those pressures push upon us. And the questions that I started to deal with were more around, how do we set ourselves up for success so that no matter what pressures come in, we retain the shape of who we're supposed to be, who we've decided we want to be, and actually use those opportunities, use those pressures, use those moments as opportunities to help the world see us differently because of the way we embrace them, the way we attack them. And that's where the idea of lenses comes in. I mean, think about it, if we put on 3D glasses, we see completely differently, which means that we're going to move differently. If we put on a VR headset, what we're seeing, it's like we relate to the world totally different. X-rays, you think about microscopes, you're able to see things. And so this notion of, if you want to say curiosity is one of my values, I believe that words are important. And if you say curiosity is one of my values, but actually curiosity is one of my lenses, then when I have a problem coming at me, as opposed to receiving the problem, trying to deal with it, and then after the fact doing a post-mortem on, hey, did I approach that with curiosity? If I'm wearing glasses that are the lenses of curiosity, as it's coming to me, my first thing is going to be, what questions do I need to ask? What happened here? Right? What were you thinking when you did this? Not in a bad way, but literally, what were you thinking? Help me understand what you were thinking. Help me understand what happened. And in that process, I believe that the way you see the world, truly see it, affects how you respond to it.
Absolutely.
And the beauty of that is, when you respond in those ways, the world will begin to see you through those same lenses. And that's what will begin to define you and the impact that you can have. If that makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense to me. And it's one of the things that I work on also with my clients, both inside organizations. And I have a retreat that I do twice a year, and the next one's coming up in November. And we dig in. Because that idea of, I think so many leaders are just smushed, like they have all of these pressures. It is the middle management folks, the directors and VPs, but it's also the head people who are facing all these other pressures. And I love that analogy of letting the world see you the way you were designed to be, because that's actually going to create the best work for you and the people that you work with. It's such a beautiful way to see it. And in fact, I did not realize that you talked about it as lenses as much, which is funny, because I hadn't realized that I think about them as your chosen lenses, and that the values that we have, when you see it that way, it doesn't feel so heavy. They become tools that give us the life that we're trying to create. Back to that, what kind of problems do I want to solve? What kind of things do I want to do and impact in the world? That feels so different than, oh my gosh, I have to have these values, or that means nothing. You're not connecting what you're saying to anything that you're doing. That's unhelpful too.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the coolest thing for me when it comes to seeing is, and with all the clients I've worked on with strategic houses and vision, mission, values, and everything, there's always a question of, okay, so how do I take these values here, apply them to this over here? And they think they're different things, and they're not different things. But what values are, really, along with a vision and a mission, is a commitment and a belief that you can have an impact on your future state and a future that impacts other people in a really specific way. Because by saying, I want to behave in a certain way, I want to engage with the world in a certain way, you're actually defining the next chapter of your future. Even though there are many things that we can't control, you're saying, my next chapter will have qualities that are more like this than like that. And if you think of values as I put them down and then I'm going to go do the stuff I do and I'm going to check in on them every now and then, that's one thing. But if you think of it as seeing, what you're actually doing is I'm saying, I want to see a future for myself where I'm doing things in ways that are more like this. Those are lenses you're putting on. You're looking into the future through those lenses that now allows you to walk forward knowing, hey, I've got, like, look, I'm old. I can't see, right? I've got so many readers I have sitting around, like, right?
And I'm approaching. I have two.
Yeah. It's like, it's with you. And I think it's a way of seeing the future and recognizing how values and mission truly are connected to a vision for what you want it to be, as opposed to I do this work and then I go back to my life. Like you're walking forward into something very specific that you want for yourself, but in the way that you always want to impact others, and gives a chance down the road, hopefully. And that's where I would say, we can talk about how you choose values and what they should be. That's why also I think they need to be distinct.
Yeah.
In really specific ways, so that when someone out there who you've impacted tries to describe you, they can describe you in a way that is, as you said, true to who you are. We are each unique. Like we are a snowflake. I mean, we are unique. And, rather than saying, hey, I had a really good boss who was, they were fun and they were whatever. I would want someone to say, Ken influenced my life forever in the 2 years that I worked for him. And here's what I learned. And here's how that shaped me. Right. Because that is, one, having an impact, and two, it's what I think we each want, is truly to be seen.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I was at a conference this week, and the Welcome Conference, and Will Guidara talked about redefining words that were really important in you and revisiting the definition. And his word is hospitality. And he came back to the idea that really hospitality is seeing people, is really seeing people. Now, he had a much more beautiful definition, but that idea of seeing is so important to us as humans. And David Brooks was one of the speakers, and he's just written a book and talking about the art of seeing people and being seen. And I think this so plays into that. And I can't wait to continue our conversation, because I think some people are like, some skeptics out there are sometimes like, well, what impact does that make on my business? How do I have the time to do that? So I want to come back next week and talk about that. So make sure you join us next week, because we're going to come back and talk about why values really matter.
Sounds good.
So let me put my coach hat on for just a moment. Don't just leave this here. Take a moment. What did you learn? What's your next tiny action step? Share this episode with someone and tell them what you're going to do. Check the show notes for all the links and connect with us on LinkedIn and all the other socials, or just, drop me an email at Jen with 2 N's at jenwhitmer.com. We want to keep this conversation going with you. I know your earballs have a lot coming at them, so thank you for listening to the Joyosity podcast and being a part of our community. Please take a moment to rate and subscribe. It helps more people join us in the movement to create positive culture with complex people. So work is a joy, people are whole, and organizations flourish. Can't wait for you to join us next week.